And I'd like to do a continued study of the striped maple tree, which is common in the northern Appalachians, especially on the moister soils. You can hear a mountain stream in the background there. This slope faces west-northwest, holds its moisture well. And common throughout the central Appalachians in certain habitats where the soil isn't too rocky or dry, and same with the southern Appalachians. It's quite common above 3,000 feet in the mountains of western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, and probably North Georgia too. I haven't hiked in North Georgia to know for sure, but I've been near it. So here's our stripes. I did a winter study of this a couple years ago, and we looked at the bark and some fallen leaves in December of 2019. So green stripes with purple or almost black stripes as well on these younger branches. And sometimes the older trunks keep that color, sometimes they don't. Some of the ones here are turning more brown. And let's look at the foliage here. So as you look up at these trees, this is an understory tree, might get to 30 feet, but often it's just at eye level or just above eye level, catching the sun that these other trees don't catch. And these leaves are quite large, and they're got 3 lobes. It's called goosefoot maple for that reason. I got a couple down at ground level we can study, but we got our opposite branching like the other maples. And this tree can be quite common in certain areas. And this definitely has larger leaves than most maples. Sometimes the black maple variety of sugar maple, there's some debate as to whether black maple is its own species or not. I won't add to that debate. I have found black maple growing near sugar maple, and the black maple leaves are much larger. But this guy is at least 6 inches from the base of the leaf to the furthest point. That's one that was at the end of the branch, growing aggressively. One that was a little further down here, slightly smaller, but they're definitely larger than most maples, with the exception of the black maple. And has this finely serrate edge, and appears to be doubly toothed, with a big tooth, little tooth, big tooth, little tooth. And obvious veins too. Look at how those veins stand out so easily. It's almost 3-dimensional where the veins are. So it has a different look than the sugar maple, the red maple, the silver maple. And I'm hoping to find some mountain maple on this hike today to compare it with, because mountain maple is also an understory tree that doesn't reach full height and needs some partial sun to prosper. But I would expect it to find some of it on the ledges of this mountain. Today finds me on the what's called the Mapledale Olivia Trail. I think this may have been actually an old road between those two towns, or an old trail between those two towns. It's now part of the Big Indian Wilderness here in Ulster County, New York, part of the Catskill Mountain Preserves, which provide forested land to ensure a stable water supply for New York City and surroundings. Let's take a look at another tree that caught my attention on this hike that also has striped bark. And just a few feet from that striped maple tree, we have a alternate leaf dogwood with green bark and stripes that aren't purple or black, but actually a gray color. So it's not identical, but you know, to the casual observer as you're hiking and not stopping to carefully study it, you could just say striped maple, especially in the winter time when the leaves are down. The good news is, even though this has bark that could confuse us with a maple tree, the alternate leaf dogwood does not have opposite branching, unlike the other dogwoods. It has alternate leaves and alternate branching the whole way up. As you can see, the branches are at a staggered pattern, not opposite each other on this alternate leaf dogwood. The branches going off at this point have actually died. They haven't broke off yet. And I did a segment on this back in May when it was in flower at a warmer location where it was hiding out in a real cool ravine that didn't warm up as much as the surrounding lands at the Fort Ancient State Memorial in Warren County, Ohio. So those white flowers eventually turned into these blue. They were green and then eventually blue berries. So when they were not ripe, they were green, like this one here. And then ripened to a blue color. So striped maple and alternate leaf dogwood can grow in these cooler, moister understory situations. Let's take one more look at the bark of the larger branches of that striped maple. Many of the striped maples I've seen when they're 1.5 inches in diameter still have that green color. This one does not, it's more gray. You can still make out the stripes, but there is no green left on it. As you go up this tree, you have to get to the real younger branches to get that green color. But the darker stripes are still there, and what would normally be green is gray. We'll keep an eye out for a few more of these trees along the way today, including the mountain maple, and see if we can record that, and also find different examples of striped maple bark to compare with the one we just saw. And about another half a mile up the hill here on the Olivia Mapledale Trail, we're still following this same mountain stream. It's a moister soil here for this striped maple to grow in. Also got some yellow birch here, and a whole variety of ferns, and even a little bit of witch hobble in the understory here. And right across the trail here from that mountain stream, I've got a striped maple here. It's a good 6 inches in diameter. I'm not sure what the record is, but this is about as large as you'd expect to find them. So the purple or black streaks or stripes are still obvious in this tree. It has lost most of that greenish color between those purple stripes. It's more of a gray. I've done a lot of hiking in other parts of the Appalachians a little further south from here, and they often keep that green color. But it doesn't appear to be the case on this mountainside, at least. But the dark stripes remain there despite the fact that the other part of the bark has turned more of a gray color. This guy's a good 5-6 inches across here. So, and reaching way up. It's actually found a break in the canopy and has probably gotten taller because of that. You know, all plants are opportunists, and if a break opening occurs in the canopy, away they go, and they just don't always know when to stop. They don't always read the textbook. 30 feet is what the book would say. This one's gone more than that because it could. And we've gone about a mile since we started studying this striped maple. I started seeing some mountain maple shortly after that. And I'm going to take the time to compare the two. We've got some growing literally side by side. We're about a little over 3,000 feet elevation here. And both these trees are found in the cooler climates of the Appalachian Mountains, not at the low elevations down south at least. In upstate New York here, I saw some last week at about 1,000 foot elevation out in the western tier area. So it more depends on how moist the soil is and how extreme the weather gets, but this is a pretty sheltered area. Got plenty of stinging nettle here, so we know it's moist soil. Let's take a look at these guys side by side. And there's our striped maple bark. Again, more gray than green, with the darker stripes being obscured by this lichen. So have to just study it a little closer when we get in these environments where the lichens grow on just about anything. And here's our leaf with its 3 toes on the goose foot and the serrated edge. There's another one right here. This one's got a little bit of green left in the stripes. So that is often a character trait that I've seen over the years. And right next to it in the understory, so again, growing maybe 20-25 feet high, and often these are in the shrub form as well. They're only chest high, waist high, is our mountain maple. So the teeth on these mountain maple are much larger than the striped maple, about a 1/4 inch in size. It appears to have 3 toes on the goose foot, but some of them have 5. So every tree is a little bit different. It's hard to make out the goose foot or the 5 lobes on some of these trees. They kind of blend together. But the teeth between the toes of the goose foot are much larger. So those teeth are much larger, about a 1/4 inch in size. The leaves on average are smaller, but the largest leaves on this mountain maple are much about the same size as the medium-sized leaf on the goosefoot or striped maple. So goosefoot maple or striped maple on the right, mountain maple on the left. Again, much larger teeth. And this one on the left does have 5 lobes if you look, 3 on top and 1 on each side. The smaller mountain maple leaf right here, those lower lobes kind of blend in with the leaf margin. It's hard to see them if they're even there. There's our dollar bill for scale. So this study of the striped maple made sense to include the mountain maple on this because they're often found in the same understory situation and the same moist soils of the Appalachian Mountains.